I gotta say, all those people that wanted to talk about Sophie Cunningham being this awful basketball player, and Sophie Cunningham, like, obviously her percentages were low. And all these people wanted to say, oh, what are we doing when it comes to Sophie Cunningham? Why is she on the team? Why did we trade for her? Do I think we gave up too much for Sophie Cunningham? Yes. Yes. I do. I do think the Fever definitely gave up too much for Sophie. But she's had 15 points today. Like, she had 15 points on 5 shots. After 15 points on 8 shots. And 12 on 12, which isn't ideal. And 11 points on 6 shots. Like, Sophie Cunningham is on a streak of a 6-game, double-digit, ridiculously efficient streak. And by the way, her defense today was fantastic. I know it doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but like Sophie Cunningham's switchability, what she did to point fraud today, might violate the Geneva Convention, may have violated the Geneva Convention. What she did to point fraud. Like, she played the best defense I have ever seen from a Fever player in any individual game. That is a complete exaggeration. Lexi Hall had a couple of games last year where she's locked people down. But, you know, not that far off. And like Sophie Cunningham, I think Sophie Cunningham is saying Sophie's the Indiana Fever versus Phoebish. Well, let's not get that far. Phoebish is way better than Sophie Cunningham. But bringing in Sophie Cunningham, I just wish the Indiana Fever didn't get screwed in that trade. The only thing I'll say is that it was Sanaya Rivers and Nalissa Smith for KK and Sophie Cunningham. But they could have gotten KK with their own pick, one pick later. So I don't think it's the worst trade in hindsight, like value-wise, but at the same time, I think they could have still kept one of the picks. But actually, they didn't have enough roster spots. They didn't have enough roster spots to bring in both, so it would have just meant cutting KK. You know what? It is what it is. But at the end of the day, Sophie Cunningham has been an X factor, and Natasha Howard, you gotta give Natasha Howard credit here. You absolutely have got to give Natasha Howard some credit, because especially when Caitlin Clark is out, what Natasha Howard manages to do sometimes, she just goes and cooks. She absolutely goes and cooks. But for me, it is without question, it is Sophie Cunningham has been one of the main X factors in this team. And the problem is that in a lot of ways, it's kind of pushed Lexi out. But Lexi Hull, there's a very clear difference between Lexi Hull with Caitlin and Lexi Hull without Caitlin. They're two different players. But Lexi Hull, in her defense, even when the shot's not falling, Lexi gives 1,000,000% effort. She's there grabbing boards. Lexi's there doing everything. So I'm not going to, by any means, be out here insulting Lexi Hull. We're not doing that. We are absolutely not doing that. But, yeah, it is what it is. And I think the Indiana Fever have figured out some of their role players. You guys agree, subscribe. We are trying to hit 55, 350 by the end of the day. Like, they have... The Indiana Fever, they're so close. They are so close to being good when it comes to next year. Like, players that you get rid of. Like, you don't need Coulson. If you want to keep Ari, that's fine. But it needs to literally be Caitlin plays 30, Ari plays 10. They play 2 minutes with each other. Like, it's gotta be like that. But for me, you don't keep Dantas next year. You keep KK, you keep Lexi, you keep Ari, you keep Aaliyah, you keep Sophie Cunningham, you keep Howard if she is willing to come on a cheaper deal. If she is willing to come on a cheaper deal, you keep Howard. And then with Kelsey Mitchell, it all comes down to, can you get Jackie Young? If the answer is no, if the answer is yes, then you go and just get Jackie Young. If the answer is no, you keep Kelsey Mitchell, obviously, because that's the way you got to look at it. But at the end of the day, it is genuinely a big one when it comes to the Fever, when it comes to these players. It's like, you keep, for me, you keep Sophie, Lexi at all costs. You keep Aaliyah at all costs, obviously. You have Caitlin, keep her at all costs. You keep Timpson at all costs. And I think that Sophie Cunningham is showing she's a type of player the Fever need, because she's versatile, she can hit shots, she can guard multiple positions. And that's why you got to go out and find another one of those players. You've got Lexi, but you do need an upgrade on Lexi. Lexi's a fine bench player. You need an upgrade on Lexi. Realistically, you probably need an upgrade on Sophie. But Sophie's versatility allows her to play anywhere. Late on in the game, the ball being in Sophie's hands seemed like a better thing. And people are saying you can only keep 6. But that's... but everyone's an unrestricted free agent. So you can keep as many as you want. You just might lose 2 of them. They're going to protect Caitlin, Timpson, Boston, Kelsey, Hall, Sophie. That's who they're going to protect. And by the way, Natasha Howard, you don't have to protect Natasha Howard. She's been cored twice, so she's exempt. So basically, maybe you lose Ari McDonald. But Ari McDonald's an unrestricted free agent. So teams aren't going to be taking unrestricted free agents in the expansion drafts. Because if you take Ari McDonald, if you don't core Ari McDonald can just go, no, I want to join the Fever. So, like, it is what it is. They prove they don't need Clark. I mean, they somehow always beat the Fever. I've beaten the Fever twice without Clark. Or I'm saying beaten the Aces twice without Clark. Absolutely, but they are still 5-8 without, or 5-7 without Caitlin. 8-5 with Caitlin, so... You know what? A game above 500, though. It's better than I thought it was going to be. It's been a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I did not think we were going to see this from the Indiana Fever. But yeah, like, all around, we got to give shout out to Sophie. Like, Ari McDonald, we need 1 or 2 more really good like 1 or 2 more games. And then I'll be very much on the Ari hype train. The problem with Ari is that Ari's really good when Caitlin's not there. The problem with Ari is not an Ari problem. And it is what it is. But I think Sophie, I think she's versatile enough that she can play with anyone. She can kind of play any role, and she can kind of do anything on the floor. Again, Sophie Cunningham doesn't do anything at an exceptionally high level, but she doesn't do anything badly either. There's nothing on the court Sophie Cunningham does badly. So anyway, yeah. We're going to end it right there. And we're going to end